What exactly is photography? On this week's episode of Develop and Process. So before we get started with this week's episode, I have three exciting announcements to share with all of you. The first one is that the print sale was a huge success and I sold a lot of prints, and I'm just thankful so much. Thank you to all of you who bought the prints and supported my work in such a meaningful and powerful way through doing that. As an update to those of you who ordered the prints, I just picked up the prints this morning from the lab, and now I'm working on going through all of them and inspecting, signing, packing, and shipping each of them out to you. So look forward to those in the mail very soon. The second announcement is that the giveaway is still going on. So if you look my last video, there's a giveaway giving away 3 darkroom silver gelatin contact prints from 8x10 film. So you can check that out. Just make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a link in the comments on that video to somewhere you shared anything of my videos on the internet, anywhere, ever, and that will constitute as an entry. The third announcement is that because of the incredible support you guys showed in the print sale, I was able to get a new vehicle for my landscape photography much sooner than expected. And so after a lot of exhaustive research online, deciding what kind of vehicle to get, I decided to go with a Jeep Wrangler TJ platform, which are the model years from 97 to 2006. Which in my own opinion, and also the opinion of a lot of various Jeep enthusiasts, is kind of this tipping point balance between modern interior coil springs and certain computerized functionality and stuff, but not as much as the JK or the newer Wranglers have, which some people feel have been a little bit too computerized. On the other side of the scale, you have the YJ platform, which is extremely rugged classic Jeep Wrangler with the leaf spring suspension and sort of a much harsher ride and like no computers whatsoever, or practically speaking. So that's why I wanted to build a vehicle that was very simple, very modular, very rugged, utilitarian in design. And so that's what I chose. So the vehicle I ended up going with is a Jeep Wrangler SE, 2-door, 2001 in red 5-speed stick, which gonna be my first stick shift, so still getting used to that. Definitely a fun truck to drive and a pretty cool looking one also. The other thing I really love about it is the solid axles front and rear, and the coil springs and the short wheelbase are going to make it significantly more capable off-road than my 4Runner was, and a lot easier to upgrade. The other thing that kind of is amazing is that despite being a fairly underpowered vehicle with the aerodynamics of a barn door, it gets better fuel economy by a significant margin than my 4Runner did. So that will be great on the road trips. So anyway, yeah. Those are the 3 announcements, and I'm pretty excited. I just want to say thank you again for supporting the channel. You'll be seeing more of that in the future on the videos, I'm sure. Let's get on with the episode. So the topic for today is, what exactly is photography? For me, this topic is really important because basically the question is, what constitutes photography? What do you have to do to be considered a photographer? Or what is it exactly? And this conversation was inspired / provoked by a conversation I had a few weeks ago with a person in the fine art industry, which you probably won't be surprised. Basically, we had this 2-hour-long conversation where this person, was talking about photography, and they were very passionate about photography. And I'm trying to be unspecific because I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but at the same time, I kind of strongly disagree with their opinion. And so I think this is an opportunity to kind of express some ideas. Basically, they said that photography is light writing on silver gelatin film and printing in the darkroom. And anything that is not a fully analog process isn't photography. So I told them, for example, I shoot large format and I do develop in the darkroom, but I also scan sometimes and print digitally because there's tremendous advantages to doing that. And I see nothing wrong with using modern tools to achieve a creative result as an artist and a photographer. Well, they said this, as soon as I put my film on a scanner, that is no longer photography. Now I am doing digital imaging, like printing screenshots from a video game and selling them. And they were saying that to call that photography was to be lying to the public and deceiving people. And they were saying that, the most you could ever sell a digital print of any kind from any camera, from any photographer for would be $150, and anything more was a blatant ripoff and deceitful because it's not real photography anyway. If that viewpoint sounds kind of ridiculous and extreme, that's because it is. I don't agree with it. I think it's ludicrous. It's nuts. But I totally see where they were coming from. I empathize with it. I really do. I'm a film photographer, obviously, so I value film and I think it's a beautiful medium. But to idolize it like that and set it on some pedestal and say this is the only way to do photography and everything else is fake, I think is just nuts. And I don't think it's helpful. I don't think it's helpful to photographers, and I honestly don't think it's helpful to the public. If photography is to survive and move forward, it has to move beyond film. And that probably sounds crazy coming from a film photographer. But I think photography, in its essence, yes, is light writing. But what does that mean? It's light writing. It doesn't matter how you capture the light. It could be a digital sensor. It could be Polaroid. It could be capturing on darkroom paper and developing that. It could be film. It could be slides. It doesn't matter. And I was kind of joking with one of my buddies, if a photographer is good, I'm going to buy their work. I don't care, if they scribble with a stick in the mud and make their images that way. Of course, that's not really photography. But you get the idea, I don't care if they print their work using an inkjet printer or a darkroom, or if they're using, anything. I mean, okay, here's a funny example for you. This print right here in the background here, let me spin the camera so you can see it better. There we go. Okay, that print right there is an experimental print I did. It's 3 feet by 4 feet. So it's pretty huge. That was printed on an architectural blueprinting printer. That only does black and white. That was just an experiment I did. Just for fun to see what if I printed photography using really unconventional kind of low fidelity means, just to kind of create a sort of, grunge aesthetic with some intrinsic imperfections. To me, that's art. You're creating art by whatever means you want. And that's what makes it so fun. That's what makes art art. It's play. We're just messing around with cool stuff and making art that expresses our humanity and our emotions and our vision. And I think to get all hung up on technicalities is a mistake. This conversation was also provoked by a lot of comments I've been getting lately on here. And please don't misunderstand. I love you guys and I really appreciate the comments and I think they're amazing. But I just want to clear something up. I feel like a lot of people watch my videos and they see me using a wooden camera and they think oh, that's how you do real photography. That's how you do serious photography. I got to aspire to that. Or I have to become a large format photographer to be taken seriously or to get to this person's level or that person's level. And I don't want you to feel that way. I feel like I'd be doing you a disservice if I make you feel that way. If you're a photographer and you're using micro four thirds, if you're using 35 millimeter, if you're using a DSLR, you're a photographer. I don't care what tool you use. Your photography is no less genuine, no less valid, no less meaningful than anyone else's photography. The meaning and the value of your photography come from you. It comes from your personality, your vision, your creative expressions, your emotions. That's where the value comes from. It comes from you and the dignity of you as a human being and you expressing yourself through that work. It does not come from how you created it. And whenever we place emphasis on the how we created the image as sort of instilling the value, I feel like we're doing ourselves a disservice. We're doing photography as a medium a disservice by sort of shortchanging it, because photography is so much more than that. It's storytelling, it's art, it's expression, it's connectivity, it can build relationships and change the world and do amazing things. And if we get hung up on the kind of crazy technicalities, I think we're really missing the point. And so I just really want to encourage you to look at your photography as meaningful outside of how you created it, and regardless of how you created it. So however you create your work, it has meaning, it has value. And if people buy it, they buy it because they value you, not because they value the work, like of a Nikon or a large format camera or a Hasselblad. They value your work, you know? I like Michael Kinna's work. I like Bruce Percy's work. Their work is created on Hasselblads. That doesn't mean that it's great because they created it on a Hasselblad. They could shoot digital and crop square for all I care. You know, if that is what gets them to their creative vision and helps them turn it into reality, then that's great. And it's not for anyone to tell them how they should create their work. Now, another thing I wanted to mention is that along the course of that conversation, we got talking about Christopher Burkett's work. And this person was kind of going into great detail and lengths explaining how his work is so valuable because it's created on Chrome and how the Chrome process is dead and you can't buy the materials anymore, and the materials cost $1,500 a liter for the chemicals and thousands of dollars for the paper, and it requires a super complicated darkroom and 4 stages of masking and contrast masking, color masking, etc., and how you couldn't have any light at all and all of that. And then explaining how the size of the prints, you know, was just majestic, and it was some of the biggest Chromes ever made, and so on and so forth. And then explaining what people pay for them. Now, I understand trying to use those to sell the work, but we were there for 2 hours. Never once did this person mention any of the photography itself. I happen to follow Christopher Burkett's work and him as a person. I know why he creates his work. He has this incredible life story of how he was training to be in the ministry, and then he felt that God had wanted him to be an artist instead of doing that. And so he went to become an artist and express works of creativity, showing the natural world, because in Christopher's work, he wanted to show creation as God's good creation, and he wanted to draw people to a relationship with God through his artwork. And I can definitely empathize with that. And Christopher's work has this resounding power, this sort of gravitas, this majesty to it, that's this purity to it that I think is really appropriate and really powerful and sort of soul-shaking. And it really grips me. I find his work very emotional to look at and just incredibly powerful. And his life story is fascinating and interesting and relevant to his work. Never one time was any of that mentioned. None of it. No aspect of it. Not even the fact that his images were of nature, or like the natural world, or forests, or hills, or trees, or mountains, or any of that. It was all about the paper they were printed on and the process, not about the work itself. It was about the tools. And to me, that, again, radically undersold Christopher Burkett's work. And to me, I felt like his work was being misrepresented to me as a fan of his work. And I felt like that mentality applied to my own work was insulting and degrading, to say that my work's not real photography because it's not created only in the darkroom, because some of it is created with a scanner. And so I just thought, I wanted to talk today about what is photography. Photography is capturing with light, no matter how you do it. So Hope you found this insightful, useful, inspiring in some way. I'm Justin Lowry. Until next time, stay curious.